Can you tell our viewers a little about yourself and PSSI?
PSSI is a broker-dealer and an asset manager based in Toronto. We have 4 areas of business. They include asset management for private clients. We also have a selection of investment planners across Canada, investment advisors, that we have working under our Portfolio Strategies Securities umbrella. We're also an asset manager that has its own series of mutual funds, and most recently we're putting together some funds for the flow-through markets.
Can you tell us a little about those, and how can investors access the funds?
Sure. The Portfolio Strategies Foundation funds are based on ETFs, but it's a fund of ETFs with somewhat of a twist. We combined ETFs with both individual investments and some other thematic exposures that make our ETFs portfolios a little different from our competitors. We also are agnostic as to which originators we use, meaning that we'll try to find the best ETFs no matter who the company is that's putting them together. Investors can buy them through their brokers or from their mutual fund brokers that they currently buy any publicly traded funds from now.
What are some of the investment criteria that you look for when making an investment?
Well, we consider ourselves a top-down and a bottom-up shop. So from the point of view of the top-down, that's the macro view, we like to make sure that the investments that we're holding are in keeping with what our outlook is for the economy in general. Now, when you move down to the stock selection component, we consider ourselves value investors. We'd like to see companies that have terrific demonstrable profitability, such as return on equity and strong cash flows, as well as decent balance sheets. You know, we're very concerned about a company's liquidity and its ability to weather economic storms. And then, of course, great value is an absolute must. We look for companies that are trading at very attractive multiples to make sure that our clients have a very good shot at having great returns.
What is your forecast for the state of the Canadian economy over the next 12 months? And what is your outlook on the Canadian markets in the next 12 months?
Well, from the standpoint of the economy, I take a pretty simplistic view of the Canadian economy. I think Canada is basically financials and resources, and then what I call all the rest. And the stock markets generally reflect that as well. So starting with the financials, I think we have the best financials on the planet, and I think they've demonstrated that with solid growth over the last few years, as well as being leaders in risk management and just generally being good solid institutions that Canadian investors don't have to go far afield in order to have financials. From the resource standpoint, we also have world-class companies, but of course resource markets being driven by commodities and also the health of our trading partners have had a little bit of a bumpy road. We do believe that the economy and the growth that we're seeing recently, which in our view has been muddling through, or moderate growth, is starting to see some recovery in commodity resource prices, which has not been reflected in our commodity resource stock prices yet. So that's a long way of saying that we think there's stability coming towards our resource companies, and that the stock prices actually are pretty good value today and should catch up to what we think are recovering commodity prices.
What are some growth areas that investors should look at?
Well, if you follow on with my theme on commodity resources, we're looking to the energy sector for some decent growth in the year ahead, and we might actually be experiencing it right now. What we've seen is a recovery in oil prices, to be used as a proxy for the rest of the energy complex. We've seen those prices recover to around $100, and we think that a price trending in that area will probably be what we see for the foreseeable future. The stock prices of these companies that produce oil have not yet reflected the recovery in what we think is a stable oil price. So we're looking for stock price growth in energy prices, or in energy companies, and also importantly the juniors in these areas, both in junior energy as well as in some of the junior mining. Our junior index, which is made up of about 400 companies, is still on average over the last 2 years down in double digits. And if you look at the companies that have actually been losing money, which is about 2/3 of them, they're down on average about 50%. So if commodity prices recover, we're going to see the majors doing well, but the majors might also be looking at some acquisitions in the junior areas. So individual investors should be bidding up prices on the juniors, as will be the acquisition activity.
Finally, do you have any favorite companies that you would like to mention?
Sure, there's a couple companies. One I'm very, very involved with. As a matter of fact, I sit on their board. It's a public company. I own shares in this company, and it's called Offsetters. And Offsetters is a very interesting Canadian junior that produces carbon offsets, which investors, if they're keeping an eye to alternative energies and the carbon world, know that carbon offsets are becoming more and more of a news item, and also a legislated item that industry has to buy. The company called Offsetters actually produces carbon offsets for this industry.
Do you have any large cap picks for our viewers?
Well, again, in keeping with our view of energy companies being pretty attractive today, there's a company called Transocean, which is a marine oil services company, which we think is one of the cheapest companies on the big board in the US today. Its symbol is RIG. We do own it in our portfolios for our private clients. It's trading at about 9 times its current earnings. And if you believe our view that oil services companies and oil companies in general will be seeing more activity in the next year or so, you'll probably share our view that RIG is a fantastic value.
Great. Thanks very much for taking the time for the interview, John. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Subscribe to our daily newsletter and be the first to get expert insights and advice from our roster of industry specialists. SmallCapPower.com. Investment ideas and research.